Hi, so I'm taking advantage of the fact that there's sun in the sky. So now you can see my video instead of the darkness that was the last video that I made, but hopefully uh, you could see enough. Anyway, today we are going to be working on the Warrior series, so we're going to be thinking about strength, focusing a lot more on standing poses, and yeah, enjoy. No more needs to be said. We're going to start sitting just for a little bit, just as always to connect with the breath, and then we'll get moving. So grab whatever you need to make sure you're comfortable, but mostly we'll be standing and getting nice and warm. But yeah, let's start. So gently coming on to, let's start kneeling if you can. If you have any issues, obviously don't kneel. But if you can, make sure that you can really release the pelvis down. Use a blanket or anything underneath your ankles or your hips. And then just really lift the spine nice and tall. So you're really trying to open across the front of the chest, really lift tall, so making sure that you're not kind of rounding into the spine. So just beginning to think about bringing all of that length into the torso. And just noticing again where the head tends to sit, if you tend to kind of have a slight tilt to one side or twisting ever so slightly. I'm kind of exaggerating, but I know that I also, for example, tend to hold my head slightly at a funny angle. So just being aware of where you're holding your head to begin with before we start to draw our focus down to the feet when we're standing. Again, another thing to notice is we tend to, when we're sitting, be quite far forwards, even though we might feel like we're lifting. So try and think about tucking your tailbone and leaning towards the back of your body to begin with. So you're really making sure the spine is nice and straight. And again, at the neck, again, we tend to sort of hang the head forwards or sort of tuck it down or lift up. Again, just kind of playing around with noticing where your neck is in relation to the rest of your spine. Close your eyes, let your hands rest onto your thighs, palms face up, elbows hanging down behind you. And just take 3 deep breaths, counting your inhalation and counting your exhalation. And just noticing how long the breath is, not having to change anything, just for these first 3 breaths. And then again, take another 3 breaths, still counting and observing. Maybe naturally now we're focusing on the breath, it might come a little deeper, a little slower. Think about the inhalation rolling length through the spine, the exhalation, as always, breathing out anything you don't need in the body. Think about breathing down to your belly, up to your top of the spine, towards your jaw, round to the sides of your ribs. Think about that fullness of the breath as we now take another 3 breaths. This time trying to slow it down even more. So knowing obviously that you were counting your breath thankfully on the last round and seeing if you can extend that breath. So now making sure that the inhalation and exhalation are the same count. So you're inhaling, let's say for 6-7 seconds, and then exhaling for whichever one you inhaled for, whichever amount you inhaled for. Take 3 breaths like this, again really consciously slowing yourself down. And again, as you draw to your 3rd breath now, we'll take one last round of 3 breaths, seeing if you can extend it just a little bit more. If you're already feeling like you're stretching to your capacity, especially as it's the beginning of the session, just stay with the last count. If you can extend it by 1 or maybe 2 or 3 seconds, see if you can work with stretching that, but not so you feel really uncomfortable and it's sort of you're having to hold the breath or hold the body, but thinking about being as slow and mindful as you can. So again, 3 last breaths before we start to get moving. Keep counting the inhalation, making sure you can exhale for the same count. Keep softening your forehead, your jaw, your shoulders, wrists, hips, ankles. You're starting to draw a little bit of engagement through into your belly, so you're pulling your belly back towards your spine. And on your next exhalation, gently start to open your eyes and reach forwards onto all fours, spreading your fingers, pushing the floor away. Bring your knees underneath your hips, again being aware of your alignment, and just start by pushing the floor away. So you're not kind of dropping down, you're lifting up through the spine, engaging around the shoulder blades and the vertebral column. And just starting to engage through your core a little stronger here. Flex the toes and just begin by lifting the knees and hovering them above the ground. Engaging. Take 2 more breaths here. Keep lifting, keep lengthening, keep the neck long. We tend to just let it hang and let the neck do all of the work. Take 1 more breath. And then gently lift up. Come up into downward dog. Spread those fingers, spread those toes. Really lengthening through the back of the body. And always take your time to lengthen through 1 leg at a time if you need to. Taking a couple more breaths, wriggling the hips, wriggling the head. And on your next exhalation, gently roll back down onto your knees, push your hips back and actively stretch your hands out in front of you. Let the head rest, just take 1 long breath here. And then exhale, round the spine. Try and avoid moving the hands or the toes. Lift up and pull back into your downward dog. Exhale, rolling the knees down to the floor, still rooting the feet and the hands in that same position. Drop your head. 5 times. Exhale, round the spine, flex the toes, pull back into downward dog. Breathing gently here, 1 breath. And then slowly release again. Knees down, hips down, head heavy. Lengthening through the torso. Take 1 more breath. And then as you exhale, come back. We've got 2 more to do. Lengthening, heels down. Starting to feel that strength come through the hands, through the ribs. Keep lifting the hips high. And exhale, knees down. Really push the floor away, starting to build that strength in your upper arms. And again, roll back up onto all fours. Last time. Back to downward dog. Pull the hips back. Take 1 breath here. And then gently lift your right leg up as high as you can. Root that left leg down. And step your right leg in front. Keep your back knee lifted and just bounce. So you're kind of starting to, you might find it more comfortable to drop the knee. You can keep the leg straight and just bounce through the pelvis. So you're starting to lengthen through the pelvic floor. Starting to push that left heel away. Again, it might be more comfortable kind of softening the knee down if that's if there's any tension holding in the pelvis or the lower spine. You decide what you need, but keep squeezing through the pelvis, keep opening the chest. Keep this nice straight line in the shin and keep your back heel engaging. Take 1 more breath. And then exhale. Swing the right leg back up. Drop the right foot down. Lift your left leg up. And bring your left leg all the way in front. Again, keep the back knee lifting if you can. Squeeze the pelvis. Open across the chest. And play around with, again, maybe dropping the knee and the hips down. Or maybe keep the knee lifted and just kind of bouncing through the pelvis and the lower spine. Keep the chest open, the belly strong. Focus on slowing the breath down. Really push that heel back again. You might kind of find you move forwards or drop down. Just play around with what helps for you to start to sort of bring a little more space through the front of the pelvis, through the front of the legs. And then on your next exhalation, gently release. Lift your left leg up and drop your left leg down. Spread your fingers, spread your toes, give the head a shake. And now gently reach your right leg up. Step your right leg in front. This time drop the left knee down and lift your arms up into a low lunge, really lifting high. Scoop your belly back, open across your chest and press down through both feet. 1 more breath, softening here, dropping the pelvis a little deeper, and then release. Come back, downward dog. Inhale, left leg high, and left leg in front, right knee down. Lift the torso up. Dropping the pelvis down, reach the arms high, look forward so you're not having to overwork the throat, the neck is long. Squeeze your belly, reach those hands high, flexing the toes. Breathing here, 1 more breath. Keep hugging the hips into the center. Excuse me. So you're squaring your pelvis, not opening. And then exhale, release. Hands down. Come back to downward dog. Spread the fingers. And now let's work towards our first warrior, warrior one. So lift your right leg up and step your right leg in front. And making sure you haven't gone too wide. So now we're going to push the left heel so it's flat down on the ground. So you have to bring the heel in at a slight angle. You're kind of going from, let's say you would normally be at 90, so you're kind of at 60. Pressing down through the floor, lift up. And again, with this back foot in this position, it still wants to, the pelvis wants to open, but we want to keep the pelvis closed. So tucking your tailbone, so you have to tuck the tailbone gently, scoop your belly strong, keeping the spine lifting. Bringing the hands onto the hips, so again you can notice as you bend into this front knee, if that hip tends to come back with you. So I've gone too wide. This is not one of my favourite poses, so noticing what works for you and what doesn't. Keep thinking about playing around with this pelvis kind of pulling forwards, the hips closing, the abdomen strong, and starting to drop down in towards that front knee. Left hip closing, squeeze through the belly, and then inhale. Reach your arms all the way up, press down through that front foot. So you're really rooting through the left heel. Let's take 2 more breaths. Again, you can press the palms together and reach the index finger up to help bring a little more length, keeping still space between your upper ears. Your upper ears? Your upper arms and ears. Take 1 more breath, lift a little higher. And now root through that back foot, keep the pelvis engaged and lengthen the arms all the way away, warming the body up and stopping halfway. So really draw your belly back so you're not sort of arching like I just was a minute ago. Keep squeezing your belly and reach those arms. 1 more breath and release. Hands down. Come back to downward dog. Give the head a shake. And lift your left leg up. Bring your left leg in front. Again, just noticing if you could go deep in that pose, take your legs wide. If going deep isn't so comfortable or possible, make sure you haven't taken the legs too far apart. Turn the right foot, the right heel in ever so slightly, so you're at a sort of 60-degree angle. And press down through the feet and gently lift the torso up, hugging the hips into the center. Keep the legs straight so we can focus on keeping this right hip kind of closing towards the front of the room. Keep your belly engaging so you're scooping up and gently pushing down. So what we tend to do is kind of just arch everything in order to get into the pose. So you want to still think about keeping strong and stable through the torso. Strong and stable through the pelvis. Starting to bend into the left knee. That right heel pushing back, right hip pulling forwards. So there's a lot of length coming into this right leg. And then inhale, clasp the fingers, reach the arms up and lift high, focusing on the breath. Again, try and avoid kind of really reaching those ribs in front. Keep them tucking down to engage through your belly. Keep pressing through both feet. And again, make sure that you're not just pushing your weight down to your knees. Keep thinking about pulling from your knees up towards your pelvis so you're engaging those thighs as much as you can. Take 1 more breath, lift a little higher, maybe drop the pelvis a little lower. And then exhale, tucking your tailbone so you pivot back and round your belly slightly towards your spine and reach forwards. Slowly taking that little bit of space, keep the head in line with your hands, keep pressing through the floor, keep squeezing, feel that warmth. And release, hands down, come back to downward dog, have a little wriggle, again, give the head a shake. Spread your fingers and push the floor away from you. Softening here, take 1 more breath. And then inhale, lift your right leg all the way up and turn your right foot to the front. Your left foot coming round at a 90-degree angle, so you can come all the way up. Now, turning your pelvis so it's facing sideways or towards me, whichever way you have your mat turned. So again, we need to shuffle the feet a little, so you want the heels to be in line. So you might have to bring that foot back. So heels are going to be in line, and you started with this left foot at a 90-degree angle. Now turn it in. So you're kind of coming in ever so slightly, and then turn the pelvis back. So what tends to happen is, again, the knees want to roll in. We want the knees to kind of lift up and out, so you're engaging your thighs again. Bring your hands onto your hips, press down through your feet, and just bounce out of the knee a couple of times to the right. Keep squeezing your belly. So what tends to happen is we just kind of lean with us, but think about keeping the torso in line. You're dropping the hips down as you open this thigh. Again, excuse me, avoid the knee closing. What we tend to do if I show you from the side is the knee kind of does this, it goes forwards, and the chest opens and arches. So think about taking the knee in line with the toes. That might mean this hip comes forwards, which don't worry, there's a bit of a push-me-pull between those two areas. So take your time just to find that position. Then when you've got your position, it might be quite high, it might be a little deeper. Working within your limits, opening through the pelvis, opening through the chest, closing through the abdominals to gain strength, and then reach those arms wide. Look along your fingertips. What tends to also happen is the arms kind of do a little sort of diagonal thing. So just notice what this arm behind you is doing. It tends to drop, so keep it in line. And make sure you're not kind of reaching the ribs forwards again. Keep tucking them down without closing the chest. Open the chest again once you've drawn those ribs back to meet your belly button. Keep pressing down through the feet. Keep engaging those thighs. Let's take one more breath. Let's give that leg a little rest. So let's straighten, lengthen along, and come into a sort of wider legged triangle pose. Again, make sure you haven't reached forwards in order to get to the pose. So lift a little higher if you need to be higher. If you can get lower, by all means get lower. Keep reaching that arm up. Keep those legs straight and strong. And then exhale. Release. Lift all the way up. Bring your hands onto your pelvis. And again, drop back into warrior two. Squeezing through the core. Reach your arms wide. Look along your fingertips. Take one more breath. Soften your neck and shoulders. From here, reverse warrior, left hand behind you, right arm all the way up, reaching up as high as you can so you enjoy that space coming through the side of the ribs. Take one more breath. Exhale, back to warrior two. Humble warrior, hands behind you, clasp your fingers, roll towards the inside of your right thigh. If you can, start to lift your arms up and maybe drop the head. If not, stay high, work with your limits. Take one more breath, press down through the feet, squeeze through the belly, and then slowly release, come back up, back to warrior two, and gently release, soften. Turn to the front of the mat, hands down, come back to downward dog. Take one breath here. I've got loads of things on my mat. Taking one more breath in downward dog. And on your next exhalation, we'll come to the other side. So slowly lift your left leg all the way up. Bring your left leg all the way in front. Turning the right foot so it's perpendicular or sort of in line with your left foot. And pressing down through the feet. So turn the pelvis back towards me again. Keep squeezing through your belly. Keep opening across your chest. So keep that left foot turning out, the right foot pulling in. So you draw it in ever so slightly to kind of close this hip a little so that we've got space for this knee to release and the pelvis. Keeping your hands wide so you're still aware of the chest, of the belly, of the ribs. And just start by, again, bouncing in and out of the hips, of the knee towards the left. Noticing if you're shifting all the way through to one side, so keep your body as level as you can as you sink the pelvis down and bend this knee, making sure the knee isn't closing forwards, it's in line with your toes. And then again, when you've got your position, it might be high, it might be low, you might need to shift your legs a little wider or a little closer, play around with your distance. Reach your arms wide, look along your fingertips. Staying here, so really think about squeezing the abdominals, opening the chest and the pelvis, pressing down through the feet, looking along your fingertips. Tuck the tailbone down, scoop your belly up, your ribs down. Take one more breath. Keep pressing down through the feet, noticing again what's happening with your arms, with your shoulders, still thinking about the length in your neck. Let's take one last breath here. Drop a little deeper if you can. And then slowly release. Let's release that leg. Press down through the feet and lengthen over to the left into your triangle pose. Again, stay high if you need to. Making sure that you're not coming out of alignment, you're not leaning forwards to get into that deeper stretch. Think about the space you're creating and that gentle release for the legs before we go back into some more thigh work. And exhale, slowly release, come all the way back up, hands onto your pelvis. Bending into your left knee, scooping your pelvis into that sort of correct position, more comfortable position. So you're really drawing up through the front and down through the back. Reach the arms wide, look along your fingertips, press down through the floor. Find your comfort and then focus on the breath to see if you can go a little deeper within this posture. On your next exhalation, we'll come to reverse warrior. So bring the right hand behind you and then lift that left arm all the way up, stretching through the left side of the pelvis. Keep your right leg straight, your left leg bending, reaching, and then exhale, come back again to warrior two. Bring your hands behind you, clasping your fingers and rolling towards the inside of your left thigh. Maybe that's enough. If you feel you can go a little further, start to reach your arms up and your head down. Tucking your chin to your chest, squeeze your belly. Take one more breath. And exhale, slowly release, come all the way back. Back to warrior two. And then slowly release, hands down. Make your way back into downward dog. Spread your fingers, pull your hips back. And on your next exhalation, gently soften. And dropping down onto your knees. And then slowly releasing, head heavy. And just take a breather in child's pose, either with the arms out in front or the arms behind you. Let the whole body rest down to the ground. Taking a couple more breaths here, really allowing that focus we've done, that strength we brought into the body. Take time to release and connect. Learning to switch the muscles off as well as on. And on your next exhalation, slowly come back up onto all fours, spreading your fingers, spreading your toes, and pull the hips diagonally behind you. Taking a couple more breaths in this posture, giving everything a little shake wherever you're holding. Starting to hug in through your belly so you're strong through your core, inner thigh, pelvic floor, lower spine. And we're going to repeat warrior one to then head into warrior three. So inhale, lift your right leg all the way up and step your right leg in front. Again, make sure you haven't gone too far. So you want to be able to push your left foot down. So you might have to shuffle around with how far away you are. The heel will be pushing down, so it's almost like both feet are kind of pointing towards each other. The left one will just be slightly at an angle. So I've got no balance today, so making sure that you don't fall. Keep hugging the hips into the center, so you're turning the pelvis, tucking your tailbone, scooping your belly. And then from here, keep pressing down through the feet. Bring your hands onto your hips and start to bend into your right knee. I really don't like this posture. It's just not, I should do it more. But anyway, maybe by teaching this class I'll do more. So thinking about drawing your left hip forwards, squeezing through the torso, and then reach your arms up just for one breath. Press down through that back heel. And then as you exhale, press your palms together and bring your hands in front of you in so they're pressing and engaging. Slowly start to lean forwards. Draw your belly back again so you're not kind of dipping into the pelvis. Keep lengthening and dropping down so you're kind of almost resting your belly onto your thighs. Staying here. Now you've got two options. From here, you can lean forwards, keep those hands pressing together and begin to lift the leg off. If that's like, whoa, impossible, bring your hands to the floor, reach them forwards and use the floor for support. So we've gone from warrior one to warrior three because we're keeping the pelvis closed instead of opening it like we do in warrior two. So hugging hips, keep pressing, lengthen forwards, drop the hands or keep the hands pressing in, and then start to lift that back leg wherever you are. Keep the pelvis closed. Don't lift this hip up to get the leg up. Keep the pelvis dropping down at the left side and push the left heel away. You can keep this balancing leg straight or bent, you decide what you need, but keep that back leg lifting. Keep pressing through the floor, keep squeezing through the center, and stay here. If you start to find that you've got up into the position with the hands on your floor, and you want to see if you can play around with coming up into the balance, careful, slide the hands onto the leg, which I can't show you from this way around. And then maybe press the hands together. If you want to take it further, reach the hands out in front and lengthen the hands away. And then come all the way back, lift up, and release. Come back, downward dog. Have a little wriggle again of the legs, of the hips. Squeezing through the torso. And we'll go to the other side. Lift your left leg up. Stretch your left leg in front. Making sure you can still bring both feet flat down on the ground and come up to your standing position. Pelvis closing towards the front. Tailbone tucking, belly strong, spine long. Starting to soften in to your left knee. Keep pressing through the floor again, keeping the hips closing, forwards, not opening. Reach the arms all the way up. Soften here. Really push that back heel behind you. Bend a little deeper into your left knee. Now bring your hands down in front of you and squeeze the shoulder blades behind you. Starting to again pull the belly back so you can lengthen forwards. Think about the space you're bringing in through the torso. Pressing down through the feet. Staying here. And again, you either keep the hands pressing, start to drop the hands to the floor. Think about keeping the pelvis closed as you shift forwards and slide that leg up off the floor. You decide. So maybe stay with the hands down and have a play with lifting. Might not be comfortable, might not be possible. Might work completely fine. Just have a little go. One side is always easier. Squeezing the pelvis. Notice again, so we're not going to lift the hip up to get it out. So you're closing, you're keeping the pelvis square. So imagine you've got a glass of water there, so if you tilt that pelvis, the glass is going to fall off. So think about that nice straight pelvis. One more breath wherever you are. If you want to have a go at going a little further, bring the hands up. Or again, I've got no hands today. Bring the arms out in front of you, squeeze through the torso, bend into that knee, and lift all the way back up to warrior one. And bring your hands down, come back to downward dog. Spread those fingers, spread the toes. One more breath. And then slowly release. Dropping down onto your knees. Take the knees really wide and rest your forehead down to the ground. Bring your hands behind you and close your eyes. And we'll finish the class here in child's pose. If this isn't a comfortable pose for you, then by all means do roll onto your side or roll onto your spine. If not, staying in child's pose, really letting the whole body release down to the ground. I'm just thinking about the work we've done, the postures, the three main warriors, as well as some other little extensions, and just observing how the body feels. Making sure that you can really soften from the top of your head, through your shoulders, pelvis, down to your feet. Keep those eyes closed. And keep breathing around the body, thinking about as if you're sort of breathing from the center out to the edges, to the sides of the body, to the front, to the back, to the top, to the bottom. Releasing and softening again and again. Listening to the sound of your own breath as you start to slow yourself down. Reward your body with this time as you consciously relax from the top of the head to the fingers, to the base of the feet. Let the front of the body drop down to the back of the body. Let the back of the body drop down to the ground. Keep feeling those points of the body that make contact with the floor and let them drop a little deeper. The back of the head, the top of the shoulders, the back of the hands, the pelvis, the calves and the heels. Releasing deep down to the ground again and again. Slowing yourself down, rewarding yourself with this time. And if you'd like to stay longer, by all means do. Pause me so I stop talking. If not, if you're ready to come back into the world, begin to wriggle your fingers, wriggle your toes, and keeping the eyes closed. Begin to round your spine to roll up to sitting, opening across the chest, palms face up. And as always, we'll close the session with 3 breaths, counting how long you inhale for, exhaling for the same count, feeling into the length, strength and focus we brought into the mind, body and breath. Thank you very much for joining and have a lovely rest of the day.